The anatomy of a cigar is broken down into three components of the exterior, which is the head, the body, and the foot. The cigar consists of three parts: the wrapper, the binder, and the filler. On this cigar, which is called a double cap, which is extremely hard to roll, and not a lot of people do it. This is a Maduro Connecticut wrapper, so the flavor profiles you get from a cigar like this are going to be Maduro tends to be sweeter and earthier, maybe some raisin notes and chocolate as well. And then it translates into a Connecticut wrapper, which goes more creamy. Connecticut wrapper is still used a lot. It's a milder cigar, which tends to have a more vanilla, creamier profile to it. And recently, the last 5 years, it's made a serious comeback. A lot of Nicaraguan tobacco, which tends to be stronger, use a lot of Connecticut wrapper now, which tends to be lighter. So you get a lot of interesting flavors, because cigars there are a lot of similarities between the way cigars and single malt and rum are made. For example, rum and scotch are aged and oiled. Cigars are the same way. Cigars have to be aged in cedar wood, preferably Spanish cedar. And the reason you do that, the two components of that are aging and flavor. And those are the reasons you do that. You want to get a lot of the flavors off the wood, which are almost like nutrients for the tobacco, and those translate into the cigar. So this particular shape is called a Toro, or a Double Robusto, or a Robusto T. And it's extremely popular now because it's for guys who don't want to smoke a Churchill, which is a larger format, but still have a pretty nice commitment on the cigar. Now the average smoker, a slow smoker like myself, would take about 2 hours to smoke this. The second shape I want to show you, which is a cigar it's interesting because it's not popular, but in my opinion, and I've gotten Dave turned onto it, and Matthias as well, and some of the other guys, are the Lancero. Now the Lancero originally was made in Cuba, and it was only originally made for diplomats and hot dukes and kings and queens. And first of all, because it's definitely a more elegant cigar. It looks very elegant and somewhat feminine. But don't be fooled by that. The flavor profile of the cigar is tremendous, and it's fantastic. And this particular cigar, this is the Maria Martin, which is all Nicaraguan with a Corojo wrapper, which is a Cuban seed. Tends to be a cedar, a lot of cedar, a lot of orange peel, extremely aromatic, medium to full body. The flavor is ridiculous. So don't be fooled by the size of this cigar. The flavor of the cigar is ridiculous.
Dave, does the size of the cigar affect the flavor profile?
Absolutely. I mean, in my opinion. Well, another example is the Reynado cigar, which we have here. It's an all Nicaraguan puro. The same cigar is used in 5 different shapes and sizes. Every size in that cigar tastes completely different. If I smoke the habanero, which is the Petit Corona, the flavor profile is tremendous. Lots of flavor, lots of leather, lots of pepper, and it's a solid medium to full body cigar. When I go to the Torpedo, which is this shape, there's a lot more balance in the cigar. The tobacco tends to be a little more Cuban-esque. And when I say Cuban-esque, the idea is that the key idea for a lot of companies is that they're trying to emulate what the Cubans have been doing for hundreds of years, which is making the perfect smoking experience. And what I mean by that is aroma, construction, flavor, and consistency all the way through. And the Reynado cigar is one of the cigars that does that. It's able to, and it has a little more balance than a smaller cigar. Since it has more length to play with, the tobacco actually marries all the way through and is consistently solid all the way through. Now this particular cigar is a house brand, and what's special about this cigar, not only is it a torpedo shape, but the glue that they use on this cigar is made with a red wine glue. So you get a lot of sweet cherry notes off of it, which is really interesting, and it's extremely aromatic. Now if I talk about, now there's a myth about Cuban cigars. I've had a lot of Cuban cigars. I've had 20-year-old Cubans. I've had Davidoff Cuban cigars. They go for $300-$400 a piece. I've had new Cuban cigars. Cuban cigars are good, but they're also really bad. They are consistent, and they don't have the technology to keep up with a non-Cuban cigar. Another example of a solid non-Cuban cigar is the Española cigar, which is carried here. And they've been making tobacco for over 90 years. They make fantastic cigars, and the 4 cigars they have cover 4 different profiles. They go from solid medium to full flavor, and they go all the flavor profiles. Now, one of the things I do when I get a customer that comes in and wants a cigar, the first two questions I ask is, what are you drinking and what are you eating? So if a guy comes in and tells me he's drinking Balvenie, let's say the Sherry Cask, which is a single malt, really one of my favorites. It's a very nice single malt scotch. I know most of the time, if a guy's drinking a single malt like that, they usually want a medium to full cigar. Also because a Connecticut wrapper cigar is not going to hold up to a single malt like that. Because the single malt tends to be it has a lot of flavors and it's extremely complex. So I tend to go more medium to full. So I recommend not only Maduro, but I recommend Corojo, Ecuadorian Sangro, and all these flavor profiles are different. My second question is, what are you eating tonight, and did you eat tonight? So let's say the guy says he had a steak. So now I know he's had a full meal, and he's drinking full-bodied spirit. So then I tend to go more medium to full definitely, because I want him to be able, or her, to be able to taste the cigar after what they've eaten or what they drank. Because if you got to take that into account. If you've eaten something a little more with a lot of flavor, because I tend to like a lot of my food very flavorful, and most of the time very spicy, so I tend to go spirits and cigars more along that category. But I do enjoy milder cigars too. There are a lot of Connecticut wrapper cigars. In particular, Hispaniola makes a Connecticut wrapper cigar that's aged 10 years. And like single malt scotch, when you age tobacco, like when you age scotch, it gets better. And what's interesting is that the Hispaniola cigar they make is not for retail. And it's fantastic. It's a lot of vanilla, a lot of cream, tremendous flavor. And you know, the thing is, you would think because it's Connecticut, it tends to be milder, but it's not. And that's a myth with wrappers also. Cigars, and there's a whole thing about that. And I'll mention one more thing about how to cut a cigar correctly. Now, if you look at a cigar, if I look at the Toro, if you notice on the top of the cigar, what's called is the capa, which is the cap. Now, old school, especially Cuban or old school Dominican guys, especially like in California, Santiago, the master rollers would use their thumb and they would flip it off. That's how they would get the cap off. Now, I'm new school, so I like a cutter. I prefer straight cut. You can get V-cut, punch cut. Now, a punch cut is a circular blade that goes in the center of the cigar, and it keeps the cap intact, and it puts a circular blade hole straight in the middle. V-cut puts a V shape, which gives you a V-shaped amount of smoke, and it keeps the cap intact also. I like straight cut because I want all the flavor when I smoke. I want all the tobacco all at once. I'm impatient. I don't have any time to wait, so I prefer straight cut, and it's a little more standard. So, and also lighting a cigar. When you light a cigar, you preferably want to use either long matches or you want to use cedar strips. I forgot the cedar strips tonight. I left them in Brooklyn. I'm sorry. Now, cedar strips, like especially in Europe, Cubans are really big. They actually, the term for Cubans in Europe is Habano, and that's what they say. So normally when you would go to like a cigar bar in Europe, they have someone who comes over, they cut the cigar for you, and then they'll light the cigar for you. And they'll go like this in a circular motion with the cedar strip. Now if you use a lighter, preferably use a torch. Don't use a soft flame. Soft flames are really made more for cigarettes or for pipes. Now, when you're toasting a cigar, you want to toast it, you don't want to inhale, because you're inhaling chemicals and flames. You don't want to do that. You want to light it this way. And then you want to whiff it, you want to make sure it's fully lit. You don't want to do that until the cherry is really red and hot. Once that gets going, then you inhale. Now, another thing to do is what a lot of cigar masters is when they're tasting cigars, the old school term is called nosing. The American term is called retrohaling. So I'll take a puff. And exhale through my nose. Now what that does is, that gives you all the flavor of the tobacco. So now you have it going up and in and out, all the way through. Now be careful when you do that, because the first few times you do that, especially like this guy, he smokes full-body dynamite sticks. You gotta be careful because it'll really give you a lot of wasabi and it'll give you a lot of pepper. The first few times I worked at Davidoff, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the industry I've been smoking for 17 years. I worked at Davidoff of Geneva for 3 years. And now what I do is I do event coordinating with a group called FineTobaccoNYC, Fine Tobacco New York. And we're also affiliated with another group which is where I met Dave, which is New York Grown and Sexy. That particular cigar group it happens to be the largest active smoking group on the Northeast region, with over 600 members in the group. And I wanted to give a shout out to, I see a lot of the guys from FTNYC, a lot of members came tonight that I haven't seen in a while, which I thank you guys for coming down, and a lot of attention to you guys as well. So, and ladies. So when you smoke a cigar, try to take a puff and try to retrohale it and exhale one through your nose. You try it one time. My second thing is, does anyone need a refill? Does anyone need a refill? All right.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.